friend Jim here with JB's Big Adventure, coming to you from Lake Chapala, Mexico. And yes, Barbara and I now have been here for 2 years, and what I'm going to be sharing is what we've learned over those 2 years that we've lived here at Lake Chapala. But before I get to that, if you haven't already, I'd like to encourage you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It's fast, free, and easy to do, and it's a community you want to be a part of. On the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little red box. Tap on it, and you're subscribed. You'll know when our next video comes out. Also, give us one of those thumbs up. Lets other people know it's a great video to watch about retiring here at Lake Chapala. And I also want to say welcome back, everybody, to the channel. This is another great video that you're going to want to see. So, I'm going to read off a list of the things that we have found out and we've learned about and that are realities here. And I just want to let you know what those are, since we've been here now a couple of years. That makes a big difference of really kind of getting an idea of everything. So, things that I'm going to share with you also are things that I'm going to share with you, maybe kind of what we were told, but what really was the truth once we've gotten here and seen things, because there's things we've seen on videos and all that simply aren't the case here. So the first one is actually, we were told there was a huge dog problem here. We were told that dogs here, they're all over the street. They're vicious animals. And I got to tell you, we have not found that to be true. I'm pretty amazed at how minimalized there are dogs here. I would have figured a whole lot more dogs, and it really isn't bad. I mean, literally, it isn't bad. I've been all the way from Jocotepec to Chapala. I've been all throughout Ajijic and all the lakeside going clear to Chapala and been around Chapala. And it isn't like every so often you see dogs going by. And on top of that, being vicious, there's no way. No way. As a matter of fact, if you're a dog lover, you'll probably find some that you want to take home. But one of the things that we found is the Mexican people don't necessarily keep their dogs in their house. They're out and around, and you'll see those with collars on. You can tell some are maybe a little bit disheveled, that you probably think they're just a street dog, which probably they are. So that's about the dog problem. The dog problem was nowhere near what we were told it was. One of the things I've been told, Barbara and I have been told, and I've had a lot of people tell me this, and that is, it's terrible to drive into Guadalajara. The Mexican drivers are so bad. What I'll share with you, being from Southern California, I don't see it any different than driving in Southern California. As a matter of fact, in Southern California, you could actually see highways that actually have 5 and 6 lanes. They don't have that going to Guadalajara. And I haven't once, since I've gone down there, been in any kind of a freaky situation. I don't feel unsafe, or I don't feel I have a fear of anything. Just driving. I mean, it's just down there driving, and it isn't any crazier than what I'm used to in the States. Now, there are people that don't do a lot of driving, and to them, it is a big deal. But I just know that when I drive down, and I've taken folks down through my relocation service, and it really isn't bad at all. To drive down there, to get around down there, it's easy to have the GPS on your phone to be able to navigate wherever it is that you're going. So that was one of the things we told was terrible when we got here. In fact, the very first time that we went down to Guadalajara, we took the bus. We took the Plus bus that goes directly into Guadalajara. And I was kind of amazed that it wasn't, it wasn't like everybody built it up to be. Or even driving here is not bad. And I know that folks have an issue with that, but it really isn't that bad. Folks talk about how bad the traffic is at Lake Chapala. And I got to tell you, this ain't traffic here. When the high season is here, does it take you an extra 10 minutes maybe to get somewhere? Yes. But what's that? I mean, there's 19 miles in between Jocotepec and Chapala. To drive all that, let's just say it takes a half an hour. I mean, I've driven places in Southern California, even in Albuquerque, to get somewhere. It isn't that big of a deal. I mean, I know people build it up to be a big deal, but it really isn't. This is another one. We had people telling us that Mexicans were lazy. Now, let me preface that. Being from New Mexico, I have found that as a whole, I felt before we got here that Mexicans were lazy. And it's like you can take them along with any other race, that there's lazy people, there's people that work hard. I want you to know that here, the Mexican people are really hard workers. And I'm not just talking about those that are 20 years old. I've seen people working that are 60 years old and above, down on their hands and knees, pulling weeds in a planter as a gardener for someone. It blows my mind. They are not lazy. They're very hard-working Mexicans, very much so. Mexicans are bad drivers. That, in fact, is not the case. There aren't always things here that are, let's say, there's things that aren't necessarily gone to law enforcement that's going to make sure that they're going to, stop somebody. Being enforced, I would say that's probably one of the things that isn't done here, because you see things take place that folks are doing. And here's the other thing. That's Mexican. You know what? I see expats doing the same thing. It's unbelievable. I mean, I saw an expat, I want to say it was yesterday, run a red light. And here's another thing. When you hear horns honking, 9 times out of 10, it is not a Mexican. It's an expat. Because somebody from them is not going fast enough. I've seen expats at a stoplight with a car in front of them honking. What's that person supposed to do? Run the red light? I mean, it's ridiculous. But people come here, and they are here who they are wherever they come from, whatever country. So that's one thing that I have kind of a beef about, and that is that don't honk your horn. I mean, unless there's grave danger or something's going on, or you don't want somebody to get hit, so you're getting their attention. That's one thing. But to be at a traffic light or to be behind some folks and they're not going fast enough for you, no reason to honk. No reason to honk. Here's something I find out a lot of, and that is the entitlement of expats here. Now, I've talked about this in other videos, but I really feel that folks get talking about the restaurants, or they get talking about tipping, or they get talking about the signage that is at Walmart should all be in English too, or more things ought to be in English. We're in Mexico. If they come to the U.S., would we expect them to learn English? Absolutely. So when we're here, we should learn Spanish. And that's another absolutely. But people are just in the point where they don't have an interest in doing that. So it isn't their fault, it's our fault. We need to embrace the culture. And part of that is learning Spanish and being able to understand the culture and being around it. Barbara and I have been around it for 2 years now. And when I get talking to folks who are talking and they're saying things about the Mexicans I just say it's a bunch of hogwash. People just want to talk. They want to build stories. It isn't as bad, the Mexicans, in regards to the way that they live life here. The challenge is there are folks that come here as gringos that they have expectations that the Mexicans should do things differently. And I say we're in Mexico, and that's an important thing for us to remember and embrace in the culture. We've learned that Mexicans will actually make a parking lot out of anywhere. You could be going down a road and they double park. And we just have to remember we're in Mexico. They do things different here. And so the double parking is something that they do here. And they will park. I mean, literally, I've seen them park half the car on the sidewalk and half on the street. It's pretty amazing. But you get used to it because of the fact that's how they do things here in Mexico. I want to make sure I say this one right. When you're at a restaurant or you're in a way of getting service, I will tell you, I have found that the Mexican people as a whole, in all different areas of life, don't really have an urgency bone in their body. I mean, it's, now there's good things with that, such as when you go to a restaurant in the States and they can tell that you're getting towards the end, they'll bring your receipt and your bill, and it's almost like they want to scoot you out. Here, it might take you a while to get your meal, but it's also going to take you a while unless you ask for it to get your bill. They're very courteous to that. They're very courteous at the restaurants, that if you're sitting with folks, they don't just bring you your check. You normally have to ask for it. So that's a good thing about them, that they don't have an urgency in doing that. But there's other things. You could be standing in line to pay a bill. I've been places, I know I went to a Walmart to take something back, and I was buying a shaver. And I realized that when I pulled the shaver box off of the shelf, it was empty. So what they do here is you've got to go like to the customer service center, and then somebody lets somebody know that they have to go to the back, then bring it out. And there's been a couple of times that you just wonder who's actually going back there to get it, because they sure don't come back very fast. So that's just one of those things about living here. It's the culture, and they just don't live life in the fast lane. And I've lived in the fast lane we've been here 2 years now. I'm 62, for 60 years. So it's just a culture thing. So just realize, if you're coming, to realize that things don't get done real fast here. It's just part of the life here, part of the life. The weather is actually better than we expected it to be. When we first got here, the very first night we were here, it was hot. When we pulled in to our condo inside this gated community and we opened the door, we were blown away. It was so much better than we expected it to be. So much more better than we ever expected it to be. But we got there like at 10 o'clock at night, and it was hot because it had been closed up. And so there'd been the heat coming in. So it was hot. So there are times of the season where it's warmer, where it's hotter. We're right now, this is in June of 2023. Right now, we're in June, and we're waiting for the rainy season, which normally comes like the end of May, beginning of June. So it's a week or two late. We saw it rain a little bit last night, but for the most part, we're waiting for the rainy season. But the weather is actually better than we thought it was going to be. This is one. So we came here thinking that the lakes were going to be real polluted. Now, I lived in Southern California. I lived at the beach, close enough to the beach to be there all the time. And the lake is not polluted. Now, do you see bottles or do you see things in the lake at times? Absolutely. But it isn't a regular occurrence. And I know from the searching and all of the things I've looked into to see about the lake quality, I have found some things that we didn't know about, and I didn't know about it until I started doing research. And we found out that the river that actually feeds the lake used to be really polluted years ago. I'm not talking about 5 years ago, more than that. And so there was a time where the lake was more polluted. But this lake goes through a lot of processing plants. As a matter of fact, it supplies Guadalajara, the #2 largest city in Mexico. It supplies them. It's being pumped out of the lake at 2,500 gallons a second, providing Guadalajara with their water. It's coming from Lake Chapala. So if it was all polluted and everything, I don't think that they would be sending the water out to Guadalajara. There's about 70 wells that are around the lake. That's where the pueblos around the lake get their water from, are the wells that were actually dug a long time ago, drilled. But the lake is not polluted. The lake is not polluted. In fact, if you're at the beach, you know how you kind of can stand close to the shore, and as the waves are coming in, it's somewhat cloudy or murky. That happens here because the ground is all silt. The floor of the lake is silt. So you're going to have that at the shore. But once you get out 300 feet or so, it's clear. So it's a real difference of what it's like at the shore than what it's like 300 feet out, it makes it clear. So the lake is not polluted. Here's another thing we learned, that when you go to see the doctor here, it's not 15 minutes. They're not watching their watch. You get an hour, an entire hour. It's so much different than the States. In the States, they want to rush you in and rush you out. And the doctor sees you for 7 minutes and you're done. It's not that way here. Here, when you've got a doctor's appointment, it's for an entire hour. When you get a dentist appointment, it's for an entire hour. That's why the healthcare here is so awesome, is because they really care and they want to make sure that your needs are taken care of. The medical care is better here than I ever expected it to be. The medical facilities are better than I expected them to be. I'd driven by San Antonio Hospital. I'd driven by Ribera's Hospital, but I'd never been in them until we were here for probably, I don't know, maybe a year. And just like I've had other health professionals that have come for my relocation service, they've been amazed, absolutely amazed at how clean they are. All the services they provide, they've got banners that actually shows all the services they provide. And just very clean facilities. And again, this is from health professionals that come here to check it out. Also, I've had pharmacists that come here that go to the pharmacy that I take everybody to find out how the medications are. Well, he didn't go in there looking for his medications. He went there because he wanted to see how much medications were here as compared to those that actually are in the States. And he could not, actually 2 people, could not believe how inexpensive the medications are here. So that's good news for you. In fact, if you take medications, to know that you'll be able to get them for less here. And they don't always need a prescription. The hospital is up to date, the equipment and everything. I mean, it's pretty awesome, pretty awesome. So I have no concern if something happens and I have to go to the hospital feeling like they're going to be dirty or something, because they're not. The Mexican people are very friendly. One of the things that I heard, and there was a couple of videos that said that, and it said that the Mexicans were hostile to the Americans or the gringos. I have never seen that. I've never once seen that. Now, what I have seen is there's some resentment, it seems, between the 2 countries, the U.S. and Canada. I've had folks that have come from Canada through my relocation service, and in our conversation, I've found that Canadians don't like Americans unless it's in a war. I've had 2 people tell me that Canadians don't like Americans until it comes to war. Then North America is together and they got the Americans behind them. So I thought that was funny. But I will tell you, the Mexican people do not look at the Americans and look down at them or anything. They're very friendly, very, very friendly here. The airport is only half an hour away. As a matter of fact, I think I've made it in 25 minutes. So it's very close. So here's an international airport that you can go anywhere out of. And especially if you're looking at coming here, you can just know that it's a half an hour away to get to an airport. And within hours, you're in the States. or within other hours, you're within Canada. So it's very well situated within Mexico, and you can get wherever it is that you want to go, and it's only a half an hour drive away. Mexican business owners here are very hardworking people. I've gone into businesses, and I can just tell that the person that's actually behind the counter or the person that's running the cash register are the owners, and they're very hardworking. They might have employees there that are hardworking, but they themselves are also hardworking. Let me see if I've got any others here. Oh, I've had people people have told us, we saw videos too before we came, that nobody's on the lake. There's nothing happening on the water. That is so incorrect. Now, granted, when you look at the area of Lakeside, there's thousands. I mean, we're talking 30,000 people, 40,000 people, 50,000 people that are retired. So it isn't like they come here or they move here to go out and do water sports. But here's what I have seen. I've seen sea-doos. In fact, I know some business owners that have sea-doos. Sailboats. I've seen water skiing, kite surfing, fishing from boats. In fact, here they can fish for bass, and it's catch and release. So there are things that I've seen out on the lake, and I've taken some video of and such. But in fact, we were told that there were no water sports, and in fact, there are. Well, Costco. The Costco and Sam's here are just like they are in the States, just everything's in Spanish. You're still going to be able to get some of the same products, remembering that it's from Mexico, so it's going to be, customized to taking care of the Mexican people. But you can actually get a Costco membership here. I want to say in the States, it was almost $100, $80, $90. Here it's $20 to get a Costco membership. So just like in the States, except it's in Spanish. If you're looking at coming and selling everything and buying appliances here, I want you to know that the appliances are pretty expensive. Why? Because they're having to actually ship them in, or they're being made in Mexico and they have to be brought in. But it isn't like you've got a big savings when it comes to buying appliances. So just know that in advance, that if you're looking at buying furniture and appliances, you'll find some that's going to be the same prices like they are in the States. That's just the way it is here, because of the fact that we're in Mexico, and to get those kind of items, appliances, they have to be shipped in. So that's just one of those things that it's important to know about that. The Mexican culture. The Mexican culture here loves American brands. I'm talking about wearing things that say Dodgers on them, or the Lakers, which is the basketball, NBA, Raiders, football team, the Expos, Nike, shoes, clothing, Converse, Skechers, Michael Kors. They like expensive looking shoes and things, handbags, clothes. A lot of things here have American brands. Now, when you go to some of these places, like there's one shopping place that I know in particular, if you go there, you're going to be seeing things that are knocked off. And but people still buy it. People still buy it. I mean, myself, I have no problem wearing a pair of Nike shoes that I get from there. I just know it's not the real thing. I'm not real brand conscious, so maybe that's the problem. But when you're not brand conscious, it doesn't really matter. But if you are, you'll find that there's a lot of things here that are knocked off. So just kind of know that. But that's one of the things they like here. They like a lot of American brands. A lot of the Mexican cars here are standard transmission. I hear expats complaining all the time. And it isn't just in person. I've seen it on Facebook. I've heard it in certain circles. Complaining about anything and everything. When you live in Mexico, the noise is too high, or there's too much music, or it's playing too late at night, or the fireworks, or you're hearing dogs barking or roosters. I mean, it's Mexico. But here's the other thing. You're not a tree. You can move. You can go somewhere else. You can go and rent a place that's in another area. I mean, Barbara and I, we love where we live. We're not right downtown. We're separated from that. But that's the whole idea. I mean, we still hear music. We still hear the fireworks. But it isn't like it's a big deal. I mean, people complain about it, but it isn't really a big deal. It's not the kind of deal that people talk about at all. I have not seen that. And I've been around some of the celebrations. Yeah, they celebrate. They've got, mariachi bands, and they've got parades and things. And it's part of the culture. Again, it's embracing the culture, just like I was talking about earlier. I find things get embellished. Stories here. I find that people talk about different things in Mexico. And I can think of several instances. I heard one instance where there were some shootings that took place. The shootings took place. What I was told, because we weren't here, we were actually in the States, I was told it was two Mexican cartels fighting against each other. And it wasn't that. It was three expats that actually stole a car. And the police found the area that the car was, because they saw it in the driveway, and there was guns laying in there. Now, I was told there was a box. When I checked on it, when I looked into the police report, it said they used another word. It wasn't stash, but they saw quite a few guns, whether it was the pile or whatever it may be. So then they called the infantry, and they called other police. They called the federalities. I understand there was a lot of police in it, but there were shots. But nobody was killed. Nobody was even shot. There was shooting, but nobody was hurt. Now, when would you think of hearing about two cartels fighting against each other and nobody did? I mean, it's ridiculous. It wasn't that at all, but people like to embellish the stories. I would say life is not as bad here as people tell you it is. If you're one of those that loves going on Facebook and loves hearing someone complaining about something, I don't know why people stay here. If they want to complain about things, why would you stay then? Just move. Go back to the States. Go back to Canada. I mean, we live here, and we live here for a reason, because of the fact that we love the fact it's slower pace. We can retire. It's great air. It's great communities. There's great people here. So I don't know why people have to complain all the time. But if they were in the States, they'd be complaining. So it's just something else from the complain about and embellish stories. That's bothersome. But you know what? I'm in Mexico. Just as long as I don't do it or I create a bigger story, I'm okay. I'm all right. I want to say that I'm very grateful to the Mexican people. Our housekeeper, she works hard. She works hard. And they only charge $5 an hour. $5 an hour. That's 100 pesos. So when she comes and does work for us, she's here either 2 or 3 hours. So it's either $10 or $15. And she does an incredible job. And I'm so grateful for her. Our gardener does an incredible job. I mean, when he's done, it looks immaculate. And he takes care of the bushes and just makes everything look great. I'm very grateful. The hospitality of the Mexican people, too. Just kind of in closing this, I would just say to you that Mexico is an awesome place. I feel so grateful for Mexico. I feel grateful for the Mexican people. And I'd like to encourage you that when you're coming down to check this out, whether you're coming to my relocation service or where you're just coming down to check the place out, just know it's a great place to live. And Barbara and I enjoy it with everything that we live here for. And I got another video coming out. It's going to be about the reverse culture shock of going back to the States. But when we come back here, we look so much forward to getting back here from the States. So we really enjoy it, and there's all kinds of reasons why. But I'm grateful for Mexico. So I hope that's helpful for you. I hope it's helpful. If you haven't yet subscribed, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe. We've got a great community here. And you can also hit the bell. That way it lets us know that, lets you know when our next video comes out. You can stop by, say hi, ask a question, let us know of a video you'd like to see, or even hit the bell. That way you're immediately notified of our next video. So with that, as always, thank you for being a part of this channel. Have an awesome day. We'll see you on the next video.